Good afternoon and welcome to the Joy Show. I'm Barbara Schreiner Trudell, your host, and I am so excited that you're here with us today. Let us begin with a land acknowledgement. As we gather from many places on Turtle Island, we as settlers are grateful for the opportunity to meet here, and we thank all the generations of people who have taken care of this land for thousands of years. First Nation, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island. And although I'm not a person of African descent, I'm committed to continually acting in support of and in solidarity with Black communities seeking freedom and reparative justice in light of the history and ongoing legacy of slavery that continues to impact Black communities in Canada and in the United States. We acknowledge the contributions made by both in shaping and strengthening our communities and our countries. And by making this acknowledgement, we strive to be allies and take an active part in reconciliation. We recognize our oneness, we realize our history, and we choose to create a new reality. We are one. Well, my guest today is Reverend Patricia Zogar, and she was introduced to New Thought in 1979 when she attended a wedding and a memorial in a New Thought church in rapid succession. So between the two, they kind of piqued her interest. Although she was raised without a spiritual tradition and was disillusioned with mainstream religion, she had since childhood yearned for a spiritual aspect to life. She instantly knew that this philosophy, with its reference to the universal mind and the infinite, was for her, and that her calling was to become a New Thought minister. She immediately began studying through the Ernest Holmes College with Edmonton's Dr. Jackie Darby, and did many other self-directed studies. In 1999, Patricia was appointed spiritual leader of the Positive Living Center of Victoria, and in 2001, she was ordained by Dr. Jackie Darby of the International Alliance of Churches of Truth in Canada. In 2008, she answered the call to co-pastor the Center for Conscious Living in Winnipeg and was licensed as a religious science practitioner and minister, serving 3 years there and then 2 years in Kamloops before retiring back to Vancouver Island. Shortly thereafter, she was invited to Unity of Nanaimo as a guest speaker. And over the next 2 years, as her relationship with the congregation deepened and grew, it became clear that she was not done yet. And on April 1st, 2016, she was appointed minister, ushering in many changes and being a part of the bridging together of the Unity communities of Victoria, Comox Valley, and Nanaimo into a unified Unity Vancouver Island. And she serves as president of the Unity Canada Board. So, Patricia, welcome, welcome. I am so grateful that you're here today.
Thank you. Natel, which is in the local language of the Hokkaiman people. Good day.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Are on the territory here of the Snuneymuxw people in Nanaimo and the Coast Salish people all across Vancouver Island. So thank you for your wonderful acknowledgement. Thanks for asking me to be here.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here. And it's such an important thing. You know, we take a look at what's happened. Hi, Patricia. Another Patricia just logged in. When I think about what happened in Kamloops with the unearthing of those Indigenous children, for me, the land acknowledgement reminds me ongoingly that there is work to be done. And I want to keep that top of mind. So thank you for sharing yours for your area. I try to keep it general for Turtle Island,
of course,
because people are from all over. So tell me about your path to ministry. It's been a swervy road.
Well, yes. How long do I have?
We got an hour. So
it was back in 1979 when I was in a very bad state, physically and emotionally. I was in an abusive relationship. I was drinking too much. I was depressed.
Yeah.
And I went and did the EST training, which was big in those days.
Oh, yes, it was.
Went to California and did that. And while I was in California, I attended my aunt's wedding at a religious science church. And the two meshed together so well. Certainly the S training was my smack upside the head, that my first inkling that I was actually partly in charge of how my life was going. And of
Yes.
course, New Thought teaches the same thing. And I did not too much about it until a couple of years later. I was visiting in California again, and my grandfather had died. And so there was a memorial service at the same church, and I started listening.
Yes.
And I was amazed that the minister did not mention Jesus or even God. He talked about the infinite. And so I sort of said, give me something to read here. So the first book I got was The Science of Mind text, which is a slog, And it took me weeks, of course, to read through it because I kept putting the book down and saying, my God, is he saying what I think he's saying here? He's telling me how God works, And so that was it for me. I had to find some more of that.
And what I love about The Science of Mind is that first chapter, the thing itself.
Yeah.
Like what a great name for God, the thing itself. Like it just gets rid of that entire, he or, that person
Yeah.
that was in the sky passing judgment on us. That's gone.
And absolutely. And that is my pet peeve. Very few people got he anymore. Some people call he, she, mother, father. But even so, it personifies something which is so much greater. So I don't even like saying thank you, Spirit, because the
No,
you
I
is
don't either.
it's just I offer great gratitude to Spirit.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
infinite creative intelligence.
That's
I call it. Like
I
for
do too.
me, yeah,
It's the
it's
best
sort of,
pronoun,
yeah,
although it still does separate it. We can't.
yeah, exactly, right. This infinite energy that is everything and everyone, and it's yeah. Well, that's the challenge, and I catch a lot of, especially Unity ministers, talking about Mother, Father, God when they go into prayer, and I go, I don't know about your relationship with your parents, but mine had struggles, and I don't want to think about this energy that's all love as some sort of disconnected parent. Like that doesn't fit for me at all.
But
So
again, that's the beauty of New Thought, and that is so free of rigid dogma. So
yeah,
people come to it with a lot of attachment to traditional
yeah,
Christianity. A lot of people come to it with "Don't ever talk to me." They feel they've been damaged by it. But
yes,
either way is okay. There's
yeah.
room for us to think for ourselves and to change it. Charles Fillmore is famous for having said, I reserve the right to change my
My
mind.
mind.
There's no final truth here. So, well, there
Well,
is.
I think that's a really important thing too. I remember my first CSL center here in Toronto. I had atheists, I had laughing yogis, I had, people from Catholic background, Protestant background, Sikhs, Muslims, Jews, you name it, everybody felt like they could come because we
Exactly.
weren't talking about anything that would dismiss their religious beliefs and at the same time sort of open the door to a greater understanding of our participation in the process of living and how we can create a remarkable life. And you've done that. You've done some great work on Vancouver Island there.
A couple of years ago, I said to my daughter, I've been in this business for 20 some years, and I've always felt like I did a pretty good job, and I always felt like I was loved and appreciated. But
Yeah.
since I came to Nanaimo here, I get an idea and stuff happens and it unfolds. And she looked at me and she said, well, isn't that what you've been teaching for 30 years? Oh, yeah.
Oh,
It's intention. Right?
oh, yeah, that is what I've been teaching. I love that. I love that. So what when you started doing your training, how did you what was that like when it came to the way your life was prior to New Thought and your life after? Like,
Right.
how did that transition happen?
Yeah. At the time I was living in Victoria, there was no, there was the Victoria Truth Center in Victoria, and we got involved with that. And I was taking, every class they offered and volunteering in every capacity there was, taking correspondence courses from Ernest Holmes. There was no training in Victoria, so everything was done by correspondence. Jackie Darby would record her classes and send me a cassette tape in the
Oh
mail
my gosh.
with a mimeographed questions, and then I'd answer the questions and send them back. So anything I could find to do. And then at that time, there had been a Science of Mind church established in Victoria, about 1990-ish, I guess. And it
Yeah.
lasted for about 5 years, and then they had to disband because they didn't have the cash flow. So they
Yeah.
asked me to be the permanent guest speaker.
Yeah.
But it became apparent that people wanted a practitioner. And so eventually they appointed me the spiritual leader, and Jackie Darby ordained me. So I feel very blessed that I'm one of the few people who managed to get credit for life experience
Yeah.
towards, and I didn't have to, spend 15 years traveling back and forth. And
Yeah, exactly. I know I was talking to somebody about doing a doctorate of divinity.
Mhm.
And it's like, unless you have a bachelor's degree, they won't accept you in the program. And I'm like, what has a bachelor's degree got to do with my relationship with God?
Mhm, mhm, mhm.
It has nothing to
Yeah.
do with it, right? Like, for me to become a doctor of divinity, for me, that would be, that's a spiritual connection between me and spirit. It's got nothing to do with
No.
whether or not I got a bachelor's degree from
And
some university in
I'm
some
doing the work I want to do. So,
yeah.
you
Like,
know,
what
yeah,
what's the
that's the
point?
only reason for getting the education, is so you can do the work you want to do. Yeah.
Exactly, and yeah, and once you have it, you've got it.
Hmm.
So, what are some of the things you're finding on the island that might be different from the mainland when it comes to, you know, poverty or, racism or any of the issues that seem to be really plaguing North America these days and probably beyond?
Yeah. Well, Vancouver Island, less and less so, but it's still pretty homogenous.
Right.
Um, we don't see a lot of visible minority.
Mhm.
Um, we're certainly open in our center. We do have a number of LGBT people. We have had Black people, and we occasionally an Indigenous person. But yeah,
The
and I
island
guess
is
it goes back to they used to call Victoria Little England. When I came here first, there was no place open for tea after 8 o'clock at night, and they had never heard of pizza. So there's still a very
okay.
um, I don't know. I've been in Vancouver Island since 1965. So comparing it to the mainland is, and when I first moved here, I was stunned. My husband was a school teacher teaching grade 4, and
Yeah.
he came home and he said to me, "Would you believe that there are children in my class who have never been off this island?" And I said, "Oh, how parochial." And now I sort of say, "Well, why would you ever want to go off the island?" So
Why
I
would
start to
you leave?
understand.
Yeah, it's pretty great. It's pretty great for sure. Yeah, I've visited numerous times and debated,
Yeah.
moving there, but couldn't convince my husband to do that. But
But
I
as far
think,
as Indigenous relationships go, I think we have a very progressive school board, Nanaimo Ladysmith School Board. They have an Indigenous education department. And
yeah,
one of our members was a school trustee, so I got connected that way. And
okay.
we have a wonderful friend, Simquatan is his name. English name is Lawrence Mitchell. And he often comes and does opening blessings for us, and has come and spoken to us on a couple of occasions at
Oh,
our
no.
service. and actually taught us some language lessons.
Oh,
But
that's
always
awesome.
looking for more ways, and what we've been, and we're talking about this at Unity Canada too. It's more about, we need to go the other way. We used to say, how can we attract more Indigenous people to us, or how can we attract more gay people to us? And what we're realizing is that we need to go to them.
Yeah.
And the Indigenous people, I think our teaching is very, very
Oh,
compatible with,
it is. Yeah.
but they can, have their own preference for their rich, traditional spirituality too. So we want to make them as welcome as possible, and we want to honor them in our new building that we're building because of our fire. We hope
Yeah.
to have some Indigenous artwork on the exterior, and to make it a performance center where we can honor both the Caucasian, the traditional white man culture, arts, and also bring in uh, performers of the Indigenous people, and either as individuals or to find ways to work together with our own musicians and
It's a
artists.
great idea.
Our
Yeah.
congregation is very open to ways we can work together.
That I think is I think that's part of the journey, is beginning to work in community, that
Mhm.
as we do more of that, then we start to expand what's possible,
Right.
and we can see change happening. Because I think the big thing is, as we look at dismantling racism, it's really about creating belonging for everyone, and
Mhm.
that requires, us being willing to maybe give up some of our privilege to make sure that there's space for everyone. And I
And
think that's, for me, that's the challenge sometimes, is, you know, so many people, when I listen to them in conversation, when we talk about creating inclusivity, it's like, yes, but, it's not yes and, it's a yes,
yeah,
but, how much is it going to inconvenience me? Because if it does, then I'm probably not as into it as if you can do it without
yeah,
it,
yeah.
you
And
know.
there's this sort of excuse. Well, I didn't do it. No, you didn't do it, but your ancestors did it, and you benefited greatly from. And if you'd been alive when your ancestors did, and not actively participating in it, but and maybe sure, maybe they didn't even know it, but we have all benefited from it.
Benefited, and we're still benefiting.
Of course we are. Of
We are.
course.
And I think that that for me is the big one. If we could find a way of honoring, all people, and coming to that place of, instead of competition, working in collaboration, where we cooperate with each other, where we learn about each other, what was life like, you know. So what
Mhm.
was life like for you as a child? Tell me that one.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up and what was that like?
Yeah.
Right? Because we all had our different experiences.
Of course we did. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is so new thought that we sort of say, well, it's a non-issue. I mean, just of course we're open, and open at the top and engaging everyone, but it's more than saying it. We have to actually create it.
We have to create it. And one of the things I've noticed is the subtleties, because I worked in Black communities for a number of years. Um, I started noticing things that maybe I wouldn't have noticed otherwise. Like during COVID, where at the hotel, they had a white container for clean pens and a black container for dirty pens. Subtle,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But, kind of a slap in the face, like, okay, so black is always bad. And that idea, as ministers, for me, it's like, how do I look at what I believe about my own life? What do I know?
Mhm.
And am I teachable? Am I willing to learn something new?
Yeah.
Which I think is the big one. Can we find a new way of being in the world, so that we create belonging,
Hmm.
which I think is one of our great questions at the moment is how do we do that?
And that's what we're working for. As you know, with Unity Canada, we have a mini
Yeah.
conference coming up on April 15th, which is about transforming prejudice, power, and privilege.
Yeah.
We've done a number of social justice book study.
Yeah.
That's high on our, and it is difficult to know what can I do to make a difference, and to really be satisfied with just doing the little things that are there to do.
Yeah, I think it's whatever we notice, right? When we notice it, do something about it. And I think our world is still a little bit behind because I've seen, outright nasty things happen and taken it to the police or whatever and been told, well, as an ally, you can't say anything if they have to come forward. And some people can't. They're not going to come forward because they don't feel safe coming
Of
forward.
course, of course, yeah.
So we're in this place of like, okay, I want to be an ally. I want to make a difference. I want to assist. And then on the other side of it, you get met with this brick wall going, yeah, no, we can't do anything. It's for me that one really pushes some buttons that there has to be a better way. Or even the refugees coming into the country. I know a couple of women who've recently come in and who cannot go back to their homes.
Of
Both
course.
of them actually were from Uganda, and they can't go back because they'll be killed if they do. But they have children there,
Oh my.
and they can't bring their children over. So until they get landed immigrant status and until they're, registered, which can take years, and then they have to take a bunch more years before they can actually get their children to come and be with them. And that to me is one of the most shocking things about immigration is why wouldn't you allow a mother and her children to come together? Or if she came first, then bring her children over. Um, it baffles me that we're separating moms and kids because I don't know about you, but I kind of like having my kids around. They're important, right?
It's kind of a given, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I can't imagine leaving the country and not being able to see my children who are, maybe 1 and 3 years old or something, right? Like, they don't understand. So I think there's lots of work to be done, and I think in our careers at least we have the opportunity to teach people about personal empowerment and the importance
Mhm.
of self-care and self-love and how to build a life based on these new thought teachings because they do create a great life.
Yeah. And for me, it's that balance that we have to deal with every day, is that we know that our thinking and our intentions and our expectations create our reality. And there seems so much that doesn't seem to have anything to do with us. There's nothing we can do about it. And finding that balance constantly, every day. And for me, it's, having this faith to fall back on, that I don't understand it all. And I know, all I can do is change the way I think about it and speak up when I can. And if I see something I can do, but not allow myself to get deep into a depression. I mean, I think you have to
Yeah.
be a little crazy not to be depressed today, but not to get attached to it. Um,
Yeah, and that's actually a really important point is to be able to, be in the world, but don't fall into the ditch,
yeah,
right? Don't
yeah,
allow yourself to be consumed by and buried by the negativity that's in the media because, the media reports, what bleeds leads. They don't necessarily report all the great stuff. We do that here on the New Thought Media Network. Friday nights, 7 o'clock Eastern time, 5 o'clock Mountain, 4 o'clock your time. You can get the good
okay.
news right here. So, but I think creating more opportunity uh, for positive messaging, because I think one of the misunderstandings in New Thought is the idea that, well, if I just think positive, everything will be positive. And that's actually not how it works at all. And I was reading in Michael Beckwith's book on life visioning. Bruce Lipton did the foreword, and he talks about the first 6 years is when, we sort of get all our training and all our information from all kinds of well-meaning people. And then for the rest of our lives, we've got about 5% of our consciousness is actually activated. And what's creating is this subconscious, this stuff. So in the book, he goes, like, you're not even living your life, you're living somebody else's. And you just think it's yours. When I read that, I thought, that's so well put, that we tend to live out of what we were taught in those first 6 years.
Absolutely. And really interesting exercises just to keep examining, writing your personal credo. What is it I believe about life? What's my ground of being? I used to think I grew up believing this was a hard, cruel universe that was limited. There wasn't enough to go around. And the way to look after myself was to be in competition with everybody else to get my fair share. And I'm totally transformed now. Sure, there's evil things happening in the world, but this is a loving, abundant universe, and I'm abundantly supplied for. And I just trust that people are naturally loving. Don't you think?
And they are.
We just want it to work for everybody. Where did this whole competition thing start? Another of my pet peeves, like, is from the time we can walk practically, our parents want us to compete.
Exactly.
And be a winner,
Yeah.
What's so refreshing to me now is there are so many young people that are just doing their own thing, whether it's gender things or self-expression, whether they dress strange or go off hike into the woods and ignore us, just doing their thing and not getting sucked into that mass.
I really love that, actually. That I have an 18-year-old. She just turned 18 last week. And what I love is that she is fiercely independent.
Mm-hmm.
And she has no fear of, I was always worried about, the boss or, the principal of the school, all these authority figures, somehow had power over me.
Yeah.
She doesn't believe that at all, not even a little bit. Like she's forever going to the principal going, okay, you need to handle this. This needs to be looked after. It's not okay. And it could be, a t-shirt that one of the teachers wearing, or, when one of the girls gets dress coded because they don't like the way she's dressed. And she goes, oh, so your teachers are sexualizing us children and you're blaming it on the children. You might want to talk to your teachers. It's like, okay, well, we're going to take a little commercial break here. And don't go away. You're watching The Joy Show on the New Thought Media Network. Hi, Wayne. And we will be back in just a minute or two. So stick around. More good stuff to come.
New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring. everyone at New Thought Media Network, thank you for being a member of our virtual family. Your financial contributions help share the New Thought message with people from around the world. Please visit and contribute at www.ntmedia.org/donate. New Thought Media Network, come be you. And please like, share, and subscribe. Until next time, peace and blessings.
New Thought Media Network is on the rise. We're looking to grow with you. Do you have technical media experience or perhaps a desire to learn? Are you willing to volunteer your precious time and attention? We share this message to benefit all. If you possess a computer with a camera and a microphone, we will share our knowledge with you. Behind the scenes or being the star, let us bless our one. Contact us at info@ntmedia.org.
And we're back. So you're watching the Joy Show here, Joy being an acronym for Just One You. And the whole theme is the importance of living your best life, whatever that looks like. So today, my guest is Rev Patricia Zogar, and she's with Unity Vancouver Island, as well as being on the Unity Canada board. So, Patricia, back to this chat we're having.
I just wrote down the title of my next talk. I love that commercial. Leaning into the discomfort.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, that was very good.
Yeah.
So,
I think sometimes we're so resistant to every little bit of pain or little, a little crink in our back or a little annoyance in our mood or whatever. There's this idea that somehow that's all bad and wrong, and we try to make it go away. But really, when we just lean into it.
right. And that's true in our bodies, but it's also true of things like allyship and how do we correct the things.
Yes.
And speaking up about it. I think that's all really, as ministers, that's our privilege, and the joy really is to be able to influence people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
talk about influencers on TV and it's all about makeup and no, we can influence people about important stuff.
yeah, exactly. And especially when we can educate, where we're explaining how these things work and how we can create a better life. That's awesome. Like what we can do, the abilities we have, I think is really, really important. We need to use them for good.
And, and there will be disagreement. We offend some people. You heard the expression that we're not here to comfort the afflicted. We're here to afflict the comfortable. And I always say, I'm not doing my job if I don't piss them off sometimes.
Yeah, and I agree with you completely. That's one of my favorite things is really my job is to sort of upset that apple cart a little bit. If things are looking, because where do we want to sit? We sit in our familiar place, even if it's horribly uncomfortable, and we'll call it a comfort zone.
Mm-hmm. And it's spiritual maturity too, as people start coming to a center or a church to feel better about themselves for the most part. And then a lot of people get stuck there. And 50 years later, they're still going to the same place to feel better when they leave. And really spiritual maturity is to be willing to be uncomfortable, to be willing to look at where can we get better, and we can't, the realization you can't really make yourself happy when people around you are unhappy.
Exactly.
We're all one. We have to do this together.
I like that. I like that. I think the fact that we are journeying together And if we're not, we're really missing the boat. And that's where competition really falls flat.
Yeah.
That idea of competition is such a waste of time and energy. That's why here in Ontario, we get together, like all the churches. It doesn't matter if you're Unity or CSL or whatever. We're going to do things collaboratively, because why wouldn't we?
Mhm. Mhm.
Like, I don't have a lease on anything. It's like some word is going to land for this person in this way, and some movie's going to inspire someone over here, and a games night might do this, and spirit groups will do something else, and somehow we all come together and everybody wins, everybody benefits.
And just share our knowledge. The whole idea of copyright, of, well, I thoroughly support artists for being, financially rewarded for what they do. When I do a great talk, you're welcome to use it, and hopefully when I see something wonderful that you've said, I'm going to kidnap that and teach it to my people, because it's making
Absolutely.
a difference,
Yeah. Because that's what we're here to do, right? If we're teaching oneness, which is what we teach, now there's only one thing going on, why do we constantly behave as if we're separate?
And
It's
just, yeah. Evolution, Darwin always said, what was survival of the fittest? And it's not the fittest that actually survive, it's the cooperators that survive. As far as evolution goes.
So as we create cooperation, that's what I love about this New Thought Media Network, is that, it's pulling together, Unity and CSL and UFBL and all of these ANTN and INTA, all of these organizations. Like, it's a place where we can all kind of gather,
Yes.
and we can pray, we can listen to each other's shows, we have an opportunity to share ideas that could have a huge lasting impact for the better.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
For the better.
Just the basic teaching that brings so many people to New Thought. And I have much respect for all religions, but a lot of people have rejected mainstream Christianity because of this idea that we are naturally sinners.
Yes.
And just the idea that you were born I write up posters that say original innocence, that we were born pure and simple. And we are truly children of God, that the divinity is in us. That's a huge concept, a shift that transforms. I mean, it just totally transforms my life to realize that.
Yeah. I think that actually, like, even Reverend Evan used to talk about each person being unrepeatable. And I like that too. It's like we're all unique, we're all special, we're created perfect, whole, and complete.
Yes.
And then, those first 6 years, the ones who get us don't really think they're perfect, whole, and complete. And they project that onto us, and that sort of builds our subconscious, and we live from then on.
I was taught to be humble, were you not? I mean, oh, shucks. And I was proud of my humility that I was. When I was in high school, somebody said to me, "You have the biggest inferiority complex I've ever seen." I thought that was the best compliment I could possibly get.
Yeah.
Oh, shucks. Little me, little undeserving me,
How many years did we spend playing small?
And that's, I don't want to get, there's a difference between self-esteem and self-love and arrogance, which is, I think arrogance is actually the reverse. So, this chest thumping and I'm the best and winner, that's not what it's about.
And most people who are coming across that way have greater insecurities than the rest who are sitting back quietly, right?
Because the fact that I'm perfect is not something that I did, it's something God did.
Yeah.
If there's a God.
Yeah, whatever this energy is, this universal energy that forms all things, right? The quantum soup that everything's made of, that energy is, I think it's intelligent. So that would suggest there's some kind of some kind of thing operating there. But everything is created out of it. So there's no place where it isn't.
Yeah.
So you're it and I'm it, and our laptops are kind of it as well. So
Yeah, and you know, finding it is just uncovering, like the little fellow who was digging the pile of horse poop, saying there's going to be a pony in here somewhere.
gotta be a pony in here somewhere. I love that story.
That's what we're up to, just finding the ponies.
Yeah. Well, and I like the idea of that self-discovery, right? Like some of the books that I'm reading right now are ones that cause me to pause because, you know, we don't know what we don't know. And so being teachable and open and receptive, it allows us to read something and then kind of sit with it going, like, do I believe it? Do I not believe it? How does it fit for me? Does it fit for me? I recently read a book called The Wisdom Jesus, and I loved that book. It was so good because it put Jesus in a completely different life thing compared to what we've been taught with traditional Christian beliefs. And so I loved the idea of him as a wisdom teacher, and that there was this energy of just love. All of it is good. There is only this one intelligence, and it's all good. It's everywhere present. And so I don't have to worry about, somebody being sick. I don't have to worry about whether they're poor. I don't care what job they did or don't do. All of it is just an expression of this one. And he was open to all of it. And so if we can be loving, cooperative, imagine the world that we could create. We need more women in power, I think.
That's a start.
Yeah.
I'm just, yes, I guess it is not men, but the masculine, I guess the yang, that runs our world right now is the part that hasn't learned the nurturing, the sharing and caring. I mean, they say it, but we can't translate it into business and economics and stuff,
And that's the piece that we have to find the way. And I love what you said earlier about capping the top end, right? Because that's going to make a difference. If no one can earn over, say, $2 million a year, then that's going to leave lots of money for everybody else to be boosted up. Like, why do we have to have such division?
Well, that's just so scary to people. Well, our American friends, for instance, would panic at that because it sounds to them like communism or socialism, at least.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, they don't even know what those words actually mean. But,
well, that's
communism means we're working together, right? But purest form.
Diego's giving us thumbs up in the background there. There's that sense that somehow it has to be, I have to have more than everybody else. If you have something, then I'm going to take it from you, or I'm going to strive to get better than you, because that'll show my value and worth. And the truth is, our value and worth is what we decide for ourselves, that inner journey of I am enough just the way I am, as I am.
I speak to so many elderly people who are downsizing, and I have to sell my house. And what a relief it is, I'm finding, to be able to get rid of all this stuff that I've been carrying for so long.
Let me get rid of all these things.
I know. I did this too. I'm doing the same. I mean, I have beautiful bone china dishes and crystals and silver. Nobody wants it, which is wonderful. But they want other meaningless things. I'm reminded of the phrase, advertising is what makes you think you've longed all your life, or it's something you never heard of till just now.
It's true. That's so true. That's so
Yeah.
true. Well, and that's the thing, we've got, fine china, great crystal. Do we ever use it? No. Got to wait for a special occasion. Well,
Mhm.
what if today's a special occasion? What if
Yeah.
just today I get to go into my china cabinet and take out my favorite whatever, and that's what I'm eating off of
Yeah.
today?
I mean, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with having stuff.
We should use it though.
I mean, because that keeps people employed and making it, but
Yeah.
have stuff you really want, not stuff you saw advertised,
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The advertising industry is, again, part of that mass media um, that gets us caught up in the fear. How am I, like I get to have all this stuff for free, but then I got to pay for it 2 years later. And of course, I'm not earning any more money than I was 2 years ago. So
Mm.
now I have this added bill and the fear settles in. And I think sometimes a lot of this over consumerism is what actually has kept us in a state of depression and angst and fear, all of that, I think comes from that overextending because we don't have we're not doing what we need to do. We're doing what an advertiser suggested we
And
do.
we're finding our self-worth in the things we have.
Yeah.
I mean, I know people who live very, very comfortably, but never donate anything to charity and never work for a cause because they say, I worked hard all my life to get all this. I deserve it. Well, yes, you do. But there are millions of people who have worked hard all their life and they didn't get what you've got. And there's a lot of people who got what you got that didn't work for it. So, what's that got to do with anything?
Yeah, I think that idea of sharing is such a big one. I notice even like we have a lot of homeless people here, and I've noticed oftentimes when people are walking down the street, I'll just watch, and if there's a homeless person here, they're looking this way. It's like
Mhm.
if I don't make eye contact, they won't ask me for anything.
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with making eye contact, with giving a smile and wishing them a wonderful day? Why aren't we doing that? Why are we pretending this human being doesn't exist? Just because we don't want to give them money? Well, don't give them money. But you
Yeah.
can give them a smile, a conversation. I've had some great conversations with people that I'd never met before that, and you find out fun stories about them,
Mhm.
how they got to be where they are and maybe how free they feel compared to how overwhelmed some of the rest of us feel who have all the stuff that
Yeah.
we have to pay for and upkeep and all the rest of it, right? So,
I don't know whether you knew this, but I had a daughter who was a heroin addict and died of an overdose.
oh my
Um,
gosh.
and well, those years dealing with that, I came to realize that most of the addicts, it's their way of withdrawing from a society that they know to be
Broken.
deficient, and you can't blame them. And in a way, that's a, a type of spirituality that
Mhm.
in that way that doesn't seem to fit with the way we think, they are discovering what's really important.
Yeah.
So, that journey isn't necessarily to be looked down on.
No, I don't think we should look down on any of those
Yeah.
things. We tend to look down on poverty. We tend to look down on people even with certain illnesses.
Yeah.
We definitely, when it comes to any form of addiction, we look down at mental illness, we look down on.
Yeah.
And we've decided all of these things make somebody less than perfect, but the truth is we were made perfect, whole, and complete. And nothing that happens to this changes that.
Yeah. Yeah. And some, I believe we're here on earth to have lessons, and
Yeah.
we can learn it in all situations, and as much in the challenges, probably possibly more in the challenges as in the easy stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I
So
agree.
lean
I
into the discomfort.
lean into the discomfort. That is so great.
Yeah,
You got that off a little advertising video here.
I did. An X talk title.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So we're getting close to the end of our time together. And I'm just curious, how many children do you have? Like you had one who's passed.
Yes, and I have a son and a daughter. Yeah.
Okay, okay. And are they on the island or are they elsewhere?
No, well, my daughter she lives on Vancouver Island, but she has a condo in Mexico. And I'm 80 years old and still working. She's 60 years old and leading the ideal retired life. So I'm not sure what went on there. But,
The joy of ministry. We don't
Yes.
have to ever quit.
To be honest, I mean, it sounds idyllic, but I do not know what I would do sitting on the beach in Mexico for more than an hour or anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, but what are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And where's your son?
He's in Calgary.
Oh, okay. Okay. So they're not too far away.
Right.
Yeah. I have a son and daughter in Calgary, a son in Nova Scotia, and a daughter here in Toronto. So my family's spread out from coast to coast. But what are you going to do? So if we were to give our viewers a little homework assignment, something that they could take away, something they could work on to create a greater sense of belonging or possibility, do you have a suggestion that you could share?
Well, I could come up with quite a few. Say hello to the next street person you come across.
Yes.
Tune into Unity Canada's privilege, power, and transferring privilege, power, and prejudice workshop on the 15th of April.
15th, yes.
Make a point of getting to know your Indigenous community.
Yes.
Find out. Go on Google and just if you know the First Nation, just Google their website and take a look and maybe get yourself invited to something.
Yeah, that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. And I think the more that we connect with people around us, the better off we're going to be. And like when I think of, people on the street, I chat with everybody on the street. I don't hold back. It's like, if you're walking past me, we're going to have an exchange. You might choose to ignore me, but we're going to have an exchange. I'm going to smile. I'm going to say hello. I'm going to talk to you, because I think one of the great things too, that maybe it's better on the island than it is here, is getting to know your neighbors, the people who live on either side of you or live in the rest of your building. Getting to know your neighbors is really a wonderful, wonderful way of creating community right where you are. Like even when we were in COVID, because my neighbors were close to our neighbors across and beside us, we could be out on our front porches during COVID.
Yeah.
We're still 50 feet apart. We definitely got that going, but we can have a conversation. We could support each other if we needed.
Yeah.
And I think there's lots of ways of doing kind acts that would make a difference for people as well. Just little things even. We bring in the garbage bins or take out the garbage bins for our neighbors, or when we're out shoveling the snow, you shovel it a little extra, because why not?
Pretend you're living in a small town where people do that. It's so easy in the city to be anonymous, and it's a way of protecting yourself, but from what?
Well, I think that's the thing that, my big advice always is shut off the news, because there's nothing worthwhile listening to there. And anything big, somebody's going to tell you about anyway. So you're never going to miss anything. I don't watch the news, and I don't watch it because it is so repetitive, and because my mind is creating my world. If I hear the same news horror story 80 times in a day, one story, my brain isn't differentiating that. It's going to believe that it's happened all these different times, and that's going to cause a great deal of upset in my physical body.
if you must watch the news, watch it with the idea of neutralizing it by pouring love to that place.
Yes.
And there was a study of a group of women who did that.
Yeah.
You know, and it changed the neighborhood, the crime stats in the neighborhood.
Of course it does.
Yeah.
I remember doing mine it's a prayer request. So any news I do come across, it becomes a prayer request. You know, I see, you know, crash on the highway, you know, it's a prayer request for all of the EMS workers, everybody who's involved, family, you know, going out. It's just all good is right here. And that constant reminder that we're connected, that if we can just take time to be kind to one another, I think that would go a long way in creating a world that's far more satisfying and rewarding overall.
Yeah.
That's why we got into ministry, I think, to make things better.
So, yeah.
Right? Like I just want to make the world a happy place.
Yeah. And just to become aware of our creative ability, because most people go through life believing that life is happening to them, not that they're doing life. And that's the shift. If we can make that shift in just a few people, when we've done our job. Yeah.
We have. Patricia, this has been lovely. I'm so glad you agreed to come on the show. It's been fun to just talk about this, that, and the other thing. Is
I had no idea that's what we would talk about.
I didn't either. I always come to it with just an open mind going, you know what, just take us somewhere, and wherever it goes, and it's perfect. So I want to thank you. I really am hopeful that you're going to get that new church of yours built up and ready for Christmas.
For Christmas. All right. Thank you.
We're doing it for Christmas, and that everybody there, that you've got the multimedia, everything you need to make it great. And I just thank you again. This has been really, really lovely. And to all of you who are watching and joining us yet again, I thank you for being here. We'll be back again next week. My guest next week is Reverend Sherry Johnson. So again, we're going to be talking all things spiritual and how to create a world that really is a place of love, appreciation, and gratitude. So I'm really grateful to be able to do this every week. And thank you, Patricia Clark, for your comment. I'm glad you enjoyed the show today. So have a great week, everybody. We love you. We bless you. And we'll see you again very soon. Bye for now.